Today, I want to talk about the benefits of the ketogenic diet. There is numerous ones. I probably could come up with as many as like 20, maybe more. But the first one I'm going to talk about is cravings. One thing that the ketogenic diet is going to do is going to allow you to eliminate cravings. I'm sure a lot of you that have done a lot of different types of diets, like especially the high carb, low fat type diet, you'll probably notice that you're constantly always feeling like you have to eat. Similar to like a bodybuilder's diet too. Like a lot of times the recommendation is to do like 6 meals per day. And that seems to be pretty cumbersome. You're going to be having a meal plan and put all these meals together in Tupperware, and you're going to feel like you have to eat every 2-3 hours. On the ketogenic diet, it's the complete opposite. You may start with 3 meals and then you'll be like, wow, I don't really feel that hungry. Then you may take it down to 2, and then you may even take it down to 1. And the reason why there's so much satiety to this particular type of plan is because of the fat content. Because it basically, calling it a ketogenic diet is kind of a weird name in a lot of ways. The reason why it's called the ketogenic diet is because you're getting into a state called ketosis. And ketosis basically is where your body actually gets fat adapted and you start building or producing ketone bodies. So these ketone bodies that you wind up producing, one is called beta hydroxybutyrate. And the beta hydroxybutyrate actually acts as a fuel source for your brain. And then your body actually makes another ketone body as well. And then so that the main ketone body that fuels the brain though is the beta hydroxybutyrate, and also fuels the muscles as well. So you'll feel very energetic with this particular type of diet. So that's another benefit. So besides getting rid of the cravings, you actually feel energized. And a third benefit that you have to the ketogenic diet is you get rid of brain fog. So you think much, much clearer. So I think that's really, really helpful. So I love the fact that I can go all day long and my mind could feel very, very clear-headed. And I feel like that's a huge benefit. The fourth benefit that I've found is the diet lowers oxidative stress in your body, which is great. So they're theorizing that it may be anti-aging, which is absolutely phenomenal. The fifth benefit that I've come across is it lowers your immune or increases your immune function. So I've kind of noticed that because I haven't been sick one time since I've been on the ketogenic diet the last couple of years, and I think that's remarkable. Another thing I found that's a huge benefit, which I would say would be benefit number 6, I noticed my recovery time after a hard workout is diminished. I don't feel as sore like the next day after doing a hard strength training workout. I find that to be awesome, actually, and I can just kind of go about my day the next day and not feel fatigued or have any muscular fatigue. And I think that's pretty amazing. Another thing I've noticed is my endurance has increased without having to increase the number of like mileage that I either cycle or run. So those are two activities I've done a lot in the past. A lot of cycling, and I've done a lot of running, and I noticed that my endurance is much improved on the ketogenic diet. Another thing I noticed that is a huge difference too, that's a big benefit. I noticed my skin has I have no rashes or irritation. It's like everything feels really smooth. And I find that really, really a cool benefit to the ketogenic diet as well. And for me, and of course another added benefit too, is that you lose body fat. And that's not always the case. If you wind up eating too much fat, and you're going to wind up kind of stalling out on your weight loss, but that's good because you want to be able to stabilize your weight at some point. But for most people, I'm sure you're going to want to lose, probably a good amount of weight to lose, since the typical American right now is either overweight or obese. So this diet will allow you to lose weight pretty effortlessly, long as you keep your carbohydrates below 50 grams. I'd say, and if you have some probably insulin resistance or you're very carb intolerant, I would say you're going to probably need to decrease your carbohydrates below 20 grams. That's what I've found with some other people that have tried to do it. And like for myself, I've always been very slim, so I haven't had to reduce the carbs too strictly. I noticed after testing my ketones with test strips that I've been able to stay in ketosis without taking my carbs down too low, which is great. So for me, I could probably stick to about 50, even sometimes as much as 60 grams of carbs per day, and still stay in ketosis. Another thing I noticed is another great added benefit has been my sleep. My quality of sleep has improved. It's always been really good, but now I notice that I seem to get even a higher amount of good quality of sleep on this particular diet, which is, to me, is absolutely essential for good health. I read the book Why We Sleep by the neuroscientist Matt Walker, and after reading that book, that book has really inspired me to make sure I get lots and lots of good quality sleep. I try to give myself an 8 or 9 hour window every night to at least get that much sleep, to give me at least that much time. So hopefully I'll get about 8 hours of sleep, and by giving myself a 9 hour window. Another benefit I've noticed from the ketogenic diet is my blood pressure stays like in the super good range. So it's been running about 110, 111 over like 74, 75. And I noticed I noticed a trend, like before I started the ketogenic diet a couple of years ago. I felt like my blood pressure was going slightly up, but still was very healthy, because I think it was about 122, maybe over like 78, or about 124, or about 82. So I noticed it was on the rise. That seems kind of small, but I feel like if I notice a little difference, even with the blood pressure, there might have been something going on to cause that. So I love the fact that my blood pressure has stabilized even lower than the 120 over 80, and seems to be in a now more perfect range. And another thing I noticed too is when I had my blood work done, my HDLs were really super high. They went up to as high as like 69, which was great, because in the past I had seen them as low as like the high 50s, or the highest I had seen them in the past was like in the low 60s. But now I see my HDLs as high as like 69. That's fantastic. My triglycerides have always been pretty low, and they still may remain that way, because I've noticed the last time I had a test, it was like in the mid 60s where my triglycerides were. So that was a good spot either as well. One thing I learned from reading quite a bit of research is that the LDL cholesterol is not a big correlator to like heart disease risk. And so that's not something I really like pay attention too much to. But I notice my LDLs are not even too high anyways. There's like probably, the last time I checked, they were like about 98 or 99. So also in the healthy range. Another thing I noticed too, my C-reactive protein was quite low, which was actually considered very good because it's a inflammatory marker, and I noticed that was in a really positive, in a really low range as well, which is good. So all these markers seem to be making are showing that this diet has so many beneficial effects. And recently, I was reading a book too that was all about cancer, and it seems like they may have, it's a theory, of course, but there may be a lot of therapeutic benefits to the ketogenic diet when it comes to either possibly preventing some types of cancers and even possibly being a modality, maybe not just the only modality, but part of therapy, metabolic therapy for cancer. So that's another huge benefit. If you have a friend or anybody that you might know that has cancer, if I was pretty much in those shoes from what I've read, I would be on a ketogenic diet for sure to try to stop or mitigate the progress or the growth of cancer. Because what I've learned is that cancer it grows in two different ways. It basically, cancer feeds on glucose and it feeds on glutamine. So the amino acid glutamine, and it feeds on sugar, glucose. So if you can starve the cancer cells of those two nutrients, then you can kill it, or at least slow it down from progressing to a more dangerous point in your body. And I thought that was very fascinating. Hopefully that comes out to be very true, that you can starve the cancer cells, at least of the glucose, because that's what the ketogenic diet does, because your body's so low in carbohydrates that you're not giving the cancer any fuel for more growth, especially on the glucose side. And then you're also supplying your body too with the beneficial ketone bodies like beta-hydroxybutyrate. And that beta-hydroxybutyrate also, another huge benefit to the ketosis, the ketogenic diet, is that the ketone bodies in themselves are showing to have like a appetite suppressant type of effect in your body too, so you don't feel as hungry. So that goes back to one of the first benefits I was mentioning earlier, was the cravings, was the sugar cravings or food cravings, period. Like, you're not going to feel like you have to eat all the time. So I've also dabbled in some intermittent fasting since I've been on the ketogenic diet, and I've noticed, because I've been on the ketogenic diet, that fasting is really not that hard for me. I've been able to do at least like a 30-hour fast, and with no problems. So what I do though to make sure, because I learned this from Dr. Stephen Finney and Dr. Jeff Follick of Verta Health, that you need to make sure you're getting enough electrolytes too in your diet when you're fasting, whatnot, or even when you're on the ketogenic diet. So what I was learning, that you want to stay between probably about 4,000 to 5,000 milligrams of sodium to get the proper amount, because for some reason when you're on a ketogenic diet, you leach, or your kidney leaches out a little bit more electrolytes like sodium, potassium, magnesium. So it would be wise to make sure you're either eating the foods that contain those electrolytes, or if you're fasting, to take some type of supplement to get the sodium and the magnesium and the potassium. And it seems like at a good range too to get for the potassium would be about 4,700 milligrams per day. And the magnesium, I'm not quite sure what the exact dose would be per day. That would be but I think I heard somewhere around 200 milligrams to 400 milligrams would be a good spot. And then maybe you can try to increase that if you feel like you can, because one of the side effects sometimes of taking the magnesium in excess is diarrhea. So you got to be kind of careful with that. So you got to find out what your true tolerance is of that particular electrolyte. But I hope this helps. Those are just some of the benefits that I know, and I think there's numerous more that I probably could come up, and maybe on a future video, I'll talk a little bit more about some of those benefits, maybe in a little bit more detail, and go from there. But I think on the next video, I'll talk about a little bit more about what in detail the ketogenic diet truly is and how to get into ketosis and what ketosis really means to your biochemistry in your body. Anyways, have a great day or night wherever you are, and see you in the next video.